Hello, it's Oscar from Apollo Gaming. Today we're playing a bit of Kerbal space program again, and for this video we're going to show you a tutorial of how to get to the moon. Well, it's called the Mun, and it's the Mun of Kerbal. If you haven't watched my previous video, I recommend you do that. It'll teach you how to build a basic rocket and how to get into an orbit. So the link will be on the screen now. Right, so let's go. Start game, resume, and open up my YouTube folder. Right, now we're going to want the Command Pod Mark 1, drag that up a bit. Now go into Utility and pick off the MK16 parachute. Put that on there. This is just in case we fail and we have to parachute our way down. This shouldn't happen. Now you want to get an Advanced SAS and stick that underneath. This is basically the same as the first rocket I made start, except we have not got a coupler because the chances of this failing are very low. And we want to put a fuel tank underneath, and this rocket here, the LV909. It's very good for landing, so we're going to stick that on there. And going to go into Utility, change our symmetry mode up to 3, and put some landing struts on. This is what's going to land on the moon and will just be there on its own. So, then we're going to go to Structural, go to the Stack Decoupler, and put that underneath. Now, we're going to want 2 fuel tanks, and this rocket. Next thing we're going to want is some radial decouplers. We're going to stick them on, and then stick some fuel tanks. As you can see, this is working pretty nicely so far. So then we're going to stick under this some more rockets and connect them all up with struts. Struts will basically just hold everything in place so it doesn't all wobble around when you're in space or on the ground, but oh well. Now we're going to want some decouplers under here, and we're going to stick 2 fuel tanks and the thrusting rocket. Now under these bits we want to place decouplers, and we're going to place what are they called? Oh, bicouplers. Stick them under there like so. So they're basically flat, the flat side facing outwards. Now we're going to want to place under each of these two fuel tanks. If I can get it at the right angle to snap in. There we go. So place another one, and then the thrusting rocket. Right, as you can see, this is working pretty well so far. We're just going to connect these outer ones up, and then connect them in the middle at the bottom. Right, the rockets that we're going to want going at the start are all these rockets at the bottom. So you want to drag this rocket down and stick them here. And then we've got all our rockets here. Then, when these run out of fuel, we're going to need them to decouple, as well as this one, so drag that down. And when this runs out, we only want these rockets coming in, so drag them down to here. This is all basic staging, and it's mostly explained in my first video. But when these rockets run out, we obviously want this rocket to start, so drag that down with these decouplers. Same with this last one. Now this is basically finished. Touch it off with some nose cones on top for aerodynamic, and it's basically finished. We could stick some winglets on the edge just to be sure. Make them a bit more level, but it's basically done. Probably do coming this way. There we go. So we're just going to call this Basic Moon Lander, or Mun Lander. So we're going to go save and take it to the launch pad. We don't want to put too much thrust on when we start this thing. So we're going to hit T to set up our SAS and turn up our throttle to just below 2/3, I think. And then you're going to hit spacebar. This thing will take off just nicely. You want to keep an eye on your fuel all the time when you're flying this rocket. So, what we're going to do with this rocket is we're going to get it into a stable orbit, just like our orbiter, and then we're going to extend our orbit until it reaches to the moon. So we're just going to let this fly up as high as it needs to for now, and then we'll be back. Now we're about 7,500 meters. We've got a little bit of fuel left, so we're going to turn our throttle down a bit, just to about a third. And we're going to hit T and start to roll over a bit. Remember to keep your rocket facing exactly on this line, and roll it if necessary, and then lock it about here. If it starts to roll back, don't worry, it should just adjust itself in time. I think our apparatus is still staying about the same distance away. Oh, it's getting a bit closer, so we need to accelerate a bit. And we haven't got amazing amounts of fuel left, but we've still got plenty of rockets. So we're going to want to tip over a bit more till we're fully on the 45-degree line, or just over. I'm just gone over, but it doesn't really make any difference. Now, as you can see, we need to set up our next rocket. This might swerve around a bit as it's doing now at the start. You adjust it and then take your throttle down. Make sure your T-minus number does not get lower, otherwise you will end up, well, basically falling quicker than you need to. So we're going to stay at this kind of an angle. Increase our apparatus to a fair height, and then we'll start rolling over fully. Right, now we're about 22,000 meters, around about there. Our apparatus is pretty low. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to do a quick burn. So we're going to turn our throttle up to full. Let the apparatus go up. We're going to keep an eye on our fuel. We don't want it to drop too low, so we're going to stop it about now. And start it up again, just so we start increasing speed. Now we can roll over a tiny bit more. Don't want to over roll it, otherwise you'll just be going, you have a full orbit around the Earth, but it'll be affected so much by gravity, it will just kill itself. Right, now we've run out of fuel, so we're going to set off our next stage, increase the thrust a little bit, and just basically make our apparatus up to around about 60,000, so we're going to turn our throttle up, and watch our fuel, and then just leave it. My apparatus is now around about 55,000 nearly. So we're going to want to tip over a slight more and just keep burning away. As you can see, it's now at 60,000 and it's increasing quickly. We're going to roll over even more. 65,000, and we still have plenty of fuel left. Now we're going to roll over completely, so we're at the 70,000 and we've rolled over fully. Now what we can do is keep an eye on our fuel and do a quick burn. We don't want it to drop too far, but we want it to be a decent burn. So as you can see, we're travelling quite far around the planet here with our apparatus, and we're losing quite a bit of fuel. We can take it to about here, about 100,000. And we're going to set up a manoeuvre node. In this manoeuvre node, we're going to increase our apparatus line quite a lot until it's around about level with the moon, and then we can also set the moon as our target. So what we're going to do here is we're going to wait till we go above 70,000, then we're going to time warp until this node is ready to go. So fast forward, and about here we want to start rolling over a bit more, just to get in line with the manoeuvre node. And if it says this, you might want to take off your SAS for a second. There we go, lock us in place and throttle up. If we do not have enough fuel to do the whole burn, we'll just finish it off with our smaller rocket. But I think we should be about fine. We might not actually make it. No, probably won't, so we're just going to hit spacebar and watch our fuel. This rocket absorbs no fuel whatsoever hardly, so we should be perfectly fine with getting to the moon. Just keep burning it out until your meters per second left is at around about 0, as close as you can really get it. And slowly but surely our apparatus is getting further and further away, and eventually it will reach level with the moon's orbit, and then we'll be able to pull ourselves into an encounter with the moon. And we still have 140 fuel left in this rocket. try to keep yourself as much as possible on that blue dot. And then it will start flying away like that. Then you can just cancel it out and just remove the node. As you can see, our target at close approach is, well, quite far away from us, 18,000 meters. So what we're going to want to do here is accelerate. If it's behind you, you want to accelerate until they get closer. And at the minute, this is their closest point, as they are now. So we're going to make a closer point, like this. Now you can see we have a moon encounter. So we're going to fast forward speed. Watch ourselves travel away from Kerbal with the sun in the distance. And just keep accelerating your time, but you don't want to miss your opportunity. So you make sure you do not go too fast, but make sure you just get there in time. As you see, here comes around the moon, and just cancel yourself off when it turns like that. Alright, now I'm going to roll over until we get to our retrograde. And this is the one with the lines through the middle. This is the way opposite to what we're facing, or opposite to what we're travelling. So as you can see, that's towards the moon, because we are falling towards the moon. Then we want to accelerate. And what's happen is our moon escape should bend round and eventually form an orbit of the moon. And we have plenty of fuel left. We just don't want our periapsis to fall too low, otherwise we will eventually crash into the moon. But as the moon has no gravity, we can get as low as we want. So we can go down to literally about 100 meters, as long as there's no big mountains in the way. So we're going to take it to about here and set up a maneuver just afterwards to slow ourselves down. Just to about there. Maybe a bit lower. Right, now we've got this maneuver set up, and we should be fine just to meet our maneuver. So fast forward as you're coming in towards it. Just let yourself fall towards the maneuver. As you can see, we are pretty close to the planet here, or the moon. And we're going to want to find our node, as we are within 2 minutes at the minute. So just keep fast forwarding until you have that around about 0. Fast forward a little bit more. And now we're going to want to do our burn. This should bring our apoapsis right down and put us into a stable orbit. There you go, sorted. So you can remove that now. And now we're in an orbit with me, but we're not actually landed. So what I'm going to do is, as we don't have any lights on this ship, I'm going to get us into a bit where we're in line with the sun. As you can see now, it gives us a clear path to land. So pick a decent area to land, about here. Turn around and burn retrograde. Just burn until your orbit speed hits 0, and as you can see, it shows where we're going to crash, basically, or not crash, land. But in our case, it will probably be crash land. We've got to keep an eye on our fuel, as this rocket is just designed to reach the moon and just land. This will probably do, as we're not going too fast now. And now we can come in to land. We're at 50,000 meters. And we want to give ourselves about 10,000 meters just to make our last burn to stop. But bearing in mind, the altitude here is not perfect, as it's not going by, well, it's going by sea level, and of course there's no sea on the moon, so it's not exactly flat. We're going to press G to bring out our landing legs. I'm just going to keep lowering ourselves down, keeping an eye on our fuel. Keep burning this way. Right, as long as we keep ourselves below about 200 meters per second, before we finally make our last burn, we should be fine. So we can do a quick little time warp, keeping an eye on how close the ground is to us. And of course, parachutes don't work here because there's no gravity and no atmosphere. Make a little burn. Got about 20 fuel left. You really want to be landing at speeds of less than 5 meters per second. So as you're coming down, just keep an eye on your speed and keep an eye on your fuel. Make another little burn. And even though when we were in space, 1,000 meters per second didn't seem that fast, now as you can see 20 meters per second still looks like you're going to have a bit of a bad crash. Just as long as we keep a decent eye on our fuel, we should have plenty of fuel to land. This is not a rocket for landing and returning. If you want a rocket like that, you're going to have to add more fuel and then more thrusters to get it into space. But I will do another video on that. For now, it's just for landing. As you can see, I'm coming very close to the surface now. I want to do a last burn just to remove all this excess speed. And you can see our shadow here, so that's a good way to tell how close we actually are to the ground. We've landed on quite a flat area here. We don't really want to be landing on a place with a big hill. And nearly. Touchdown. And here we are, landed on the surface of the Mun. And here we're going to go EVA, which is evacuation, with Bill Kerman. And if you space let go, and if you press R, you can get your jetpack out. And it's shift and control to go up and down, and then it's WASD. So he is the first man, or the first Kerman, to walk on the moon. Probably first Kerbal, but his name's Bill Kerman. So I'm going to put him back into the rocket. And that was the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Check out all the other KSP videos and all the other videos on our channel. Thank you for watching.